Welcome to this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly, joined by Captain Jim Judkins with Suffolk Fire and Rescue. He's the Emergency Management Coordinator here with the City of Suffolk. And today's topic is one that we really don't spend a whole lot of time on, but it is very important, and that's earthquakes.
Absolutely. Up until 2011, we never thought of earthquakes in this area, or the Commonwealth, for that matter of fact. But that earthquake that did devastated Mineral, Virginia, and shook our area
That's
pretty
right.
good.
Yes.
It made us have to rethink the whole preparedness process.
And I guess it's one of those things that certainly, I know in all this technology and things we have, we get only so much advance warning. And with earthquakes, I know they're certainly working on that technology to let us know. But one of the things we do know about is what's called the Great Southeast Shakeout, coming up on October the 17th. And Captain Judkins, I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about what this event is and what the purpose of it is.
Okay, the Great Southeast Shakeout, of course, is an event where states from Georgia up to Maryland, and including the District of Columbia, they have an opportunity to practice their earthquake drills, make sure the procedures are working. It's a time for education of the citizens, where they can learn what they need to do. And of course, the three big features are just like we see on the screen: the drop, cover, and hold on. And there are some variations of that, but that's the three basic techniques that you need to do in the event of an earthquake.
Now, what's the philosophy behind, three very simple procedures or ways to go about doing it, but what's the philosophy behind that, and what is that going to probably mean to increase your safety?
Absolutely. Those of us that have been around a few years, longer than some of the younger generations, we know the whole duck and cover thing is actually from the Cold War era, when we were protecting from a nuclear blast. So this kind of lends to that. You drop, which we used duck back then. You drop to the floor if possible,
Right.
And then you cover yourself either by some object, or worst case, if no object available, you use your hands to cover and protect your head and neck as much as possible. And of course, the hold on.
Right.
If you're under something, you want to hold on to it to keep that from moving away from you. But that's the basic simple steps behind drop, cover, and hold on.
Now, one of the things I think, and we talked about this before we started the taping today, but what's natural human reaction when something's going on? The first thing you want to do is probably get out of there. And that maybe is not the best thing in the event that there is an earthquake or you're feeling those tremors, correct?
Absolutely. Again, natural instinct is to run out of the building. But that, again, like you said, that's the worst thing you could do, because if in the event of an earthquake, pieces of the building start falling off. The ceiling, the actual structural elements of the building can fall on you in injury. And some film that we had of the Mineral earthquake with the kids running out of the school building,
Right.
the ceiling was actually falling on, and several of them were injured in it. So that emphasizes the importance of dropping and covering and holding on. Hunker down where you are.
Exactly. And of course, that philosophy comes into play with depending upon what the natural disaster or the emergency may be. But one thing with the Great Southeast Shakeout that they're asking people to do is go online to the website, and we'll have that web address on the screen, and to register you as an individual, your organization, your business, or whatever. And Virginia actually has done a really good job of getting the message out and getting people registered for this event, correct?
They sure have. Virginia should be close to about 700,000 registered participants right now, which is outstanding. The whole southeast area is approaching 1 million, but
Right.
Virginia is leading the way and leading the charge on that. So that says a lot of good things about the message that we're putting out to the people about, hey, this, yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it could be bad.
That's right. And of course, the biggest thing is to know what to do when that situation occurs. You don't want to be stuck in place, so to speak. Well, of course, you might want to be shelter in place, so to speak. But as far as not knowing how to react and what to do, because as we know, this area of the country, earthquakes don't happen maybe as prevalently as they do in other parts of the country, but you never know. And
Exactly.
I should say August of 2011 certainly proved that.
And you never know where you're going to be when something
That's
like
correct
this
as
happens.
well, yeah.
You could be in shopping somewhere. You could be in the theater. You could be riding down the road.
Right.
And there's specific things you could do in each one of those locations. For instance, if you're shopping, you know, there are a lot of tall shelves down the aisles of just grocery stores, the larger big box stores. So you want to try to stay away from those shelves with falling objects.
Right.
You're most likely pushing a shopping cart. So take advantage of your shopping cart. Drop down beside that shopping cart. If you happen to be in an area where the tall things are on the shelves at the time, use the shelf of your cart and kind of crawl to the end of the aisle where things are a little safety. If you're driving down the road and it's bad enough to where you can feel it shaking your car, you want to pull off to the side of the road, away from the bridges and overpasses, away from the power lines, and lock your parking brake and just sit there until the shaking stops. And of course, if you happen not to be able to get away from the power lines, you don't want to exit your car with the power lines. For individuals that are wheelchair bound, there are even things that they can do. They can actually bend over in the wheelchair, cover their heads and neck with their hands. If there's a pillow available, they can pull that over their head. If there are books available, they can pull that over head. So there are ways to protect yourself no matter who you are, no matter where you are.
Now, if you're out in the middle, we talked about it if you're outside, or actually in your vehicle, I should say, with power lines, but if you're walking down the street, you know, you're in maybe a condensed or heavy populated or a lot of tall buildings and things around where you are, something breaks out. What would you advise in that sort of circumstances? I know situationally, but you know, obviously you want to avoid the tall buildings, but you're out there.
Obviously, Tim, you want to stay away from some objects that would fall, pieces of building, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
And power lines, you know, for some reason, trees don't tend to fall as much as power lines in buildings. So if that, you know, you don't have to worry about those quite as bad. But again, you want to, even in those cases, you want to try to get clear of any possible fallen objects and just drop and cover, if nothing else.
So again, a lot of common sense things, but again, when you're in that situation, you might not be thinking with common sense because everything's going on around you.
Right. Again, it all boils back to that natural instinct we have, the fight or flight instinct. Something like this, we want to run, flight. The flight instinct kicks in.
Indeed. Now, of course, the event, the Great Southeast Shakeout, is October the 17th at 10:17 a.m., and that's 10:17 on 10:17 in case you're counting at home. But again, what are some of the other things that may be happening around that? Is it just simply about individual companies, groups, schools, whatever, having their own drill, or is it more of a widespread thing about, again, as you noted, the education component, getting people the three tips that we talked about there?
It's all the above, Tim, because you know we want you to be able to practice your plan, what to do. Of course, practice makes perfect, but we also want you to know the method behind the madness. Also, why are we doing this? What can I do to protect myself? What can I do to protect my family? What if I'm at the office? What do I have to do, particularly in my workplace? This is an all of the above educational experience.
Correct. Now, of course, you know, you and I spend a lot of time talking about some of the programs we do, talk about hurricane preparedness, and of course we talk about your evacuation kit in that instance, because that, obviously, you know when a hurricane's coming. Everybody's talking about it, the Weather Channel's talking about it, we're talking about it. So again, you have that advance warning. But in this situation, any good, outside of the tips that we talked about situationally, disaster preparedness that you can do in the event that an earthquake occurs? Again, you're not going to have as much lead time, but situation happens, what maybe is the post effects? What do you need to maybe think about beyond the actual shaking and when that kind of stops?
Look, of course, with the earthquakes, there are shaking.
Yes.
Then there are always those tremors that come in the aftermath.
Right.
The damage that comes as a result of the shaking, the down power lines, the buildings that are compromised, the ruptured gas lines, all these can create a hazardous environment where we happen to be at the time. And these are things we have to be aware of. If we're at home, it all boils down to that using that family plan there. It tell you to learn your electrical cutoffs, learn your gas cutoffs, where they are, how to use them. So if you have a leak, I'm not telling you to cut it off automatically. If you got a gas leak, know where that cutoff is and use it and cut it off to keep yourself safe. Likewise, if you have electrical sparking going on around your house, go to that main panel box and cut that main breaker off. To create a safe atmosphere for you until you can get the problem taken care of.
Exactly. Now, of course, we talked about the Great Southeast Shakeout. They have that website. And of course, again, we have that address up there. But Captain Judkins, on the local level, if someone wanted to know a little bit more about preparing for an earthquake or what to do in the situation, they wanted to talk with someone on the local level, is there a good contact number to maybe reach you?
Absolutely. My office number, and that's it's 514-4536. And if I'm not at my desk, leave a message and I'll get back to you.
And of course, we'll also make sure we have the emergency management website up there. Again, a lot of great information there on a variety of things that you can do to prepare. Great links as well to other agencies and things that can provide information that you certainly need to know and be aware of when situations do arise. Well, Captain Judkins, thank you again. We're talking about the Great Southeast Shakeout coming up on October the 17th at 10:17 that morning. Again, we encourage you to go to the website, register, so that way, you know, and of course, Virginia's done a great job so far, but those numbers are really getting up there. So people to participate, again, the educational component to know what to do in the event that an earthquake or, and again, in any realm, really, any natural disaster would occur. But in this case, of course, we're talking about earthquake preparedness. Again, Captain Judkins, thank you. And that will do it for this edition of Safety First. We'll see you next time.